Alright, howdy folks, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to Combat Mission Battle for Normandy. After having been released back in May of 2011 on the website of the developers, Combat Mission Normandy finally joins Combat Missions Cold War, Shock Force 2, and Black Sea in being available on Steam starting March 28th. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw even more CM titles on Steam in the future, but for now, let's focus on this latest one. Besides dealing with the Normandy theater, a DLC gives players access to the battle for the Netherlands during Operation Market Garden, which is what this battle is from in today's video. Links to the game's store page as well as all my Combat Mission playlists are in the description down below. This mission is called Facade Troop and sees a second-rate German force commanded by myself fight against a highly trained mixed British and Polish airborne force commanded by my friend Fleming. The Allied troops are very well equipped for the coming fight with tons of grenades, submachine guns, machine guns, and a general higher level of veterancy. On the other hand, the German troops are a mixture of German Kriegsmarine, just Navy personnel, assisted by security troops. The strength of the German force really lies in their numbers and not in their training nor equipment. There are 5 main objectives that'll give whoever is in control of it at the end of the battle 100 points each. Furthermore, some bonus points can be gained through eliminating sufficient numbers of enemy units. Now, my initial force is split, with 2 recon squads deploying away from the main force, separated by a canal. My forces being second rate and mostly used for rearguard security means that they are very under-equipped. Only 1 squad per platoon has a machine gun, with every other member, besides the team leaders who have MP40s, being equipped with Kar 98s. I also have 2 dedicated machine gun teams, a 50mm mortar, and a 37mm anti-tank gun. Now, I have included the battle timer in the top of the video. The battle starts at 55 minutes, and each turn subtracts 1 minute from the timer. I hope you guys enjoyed this style of video. If you want to see more Combat Mission, just let me know in the comments. Hope you enjoy, and I'll catch you in the next one. So initially, I tried deploying my troops as far forward as I thought that was safely possible, utilizing some of the Opel Blitz transport trucks. I figured if I can occupy houses with enough rifles, it'll hopefully allow me some time to defend against the more assault-equipped British forces. Hoping to use my numerical superiority, I deploy a large amount of my force across the canal, supporting my recon troops and trying to attempt to capture 2 of the main objectives right away. While my troops are crossing one of the objective bridges towards the objective on the railway station, I come under fire from a British machine gun, not only knocking out a few of my men, but definitely causing some morale issues, considering these guys are very much second rate. I set up my 50mm mortar inside one of the main objectives to provide close fire support. I did have to hide the trees here so you could see the impact on the roof of a building I suspected to have a machine gun team deployed in it to overwatch the road. The units that I deployed far ahead with the Opel Blitz are now taking casualties pretty much on every team. Considering the British have such a massive firepower advantage, this is not a huge surprise. British forces are trying to cross one of the main objectives towards the train station main objective. They do come under heavy fire from pretty much every machine gun and rifle set up in every window on my side of the canal. A few casualties later, they do manage to cross, though if it was worth it is a different question. I have set up my light anti-tank gun near my light mortar. The purpose of it to try and create a crossfire from one of the main objectives towards one of the main objective bridges. And the pack gun actually scores a pretty insanely lucky hit on a moving British paratrooper. Here, one of the very few machine gunners that I do have manages to miss his very clear shot on a jeep carrying an AT gun and its crew. British paras are now trying to cross the river in even larger numbers. With my recon teams that were deployed on this side of the canal putting in a lot of the resistance fighting because they are all equipped with submachine guns. A quick overhead view of the battle as it is currently. Do keep in mind that only the gray and black symbols are accurate positions of my troops, and a lot of the enemy units that aren't spotted will obviously not be shown on this map. You can also see that I've just received a large amount of reinforcements in the form of another security unit. My light anti-tank gun now loads special indirect shells, giving it more of an arc, allowing for units behind cover to be impacted by these rounds. My newly reinforcing units are now conga lining across the one tiny footbridge that is there. We are quite lucky that a random mortar round doesn't find their way near this fustercluck of friendly units. A lot of heavy lifting was done by machine gun and submachine gun armed infantry in the buildings on the canal. These windows in these buildings gave a lot of opportunity for infantry to use their weapons in a large amount of circumstances, mostly trying to engage British soldiers who were crossing the main river bridge in the distance. Due to my numerical superiority, I didn't really care if I lost 2 or 3 men out of the team, as I figured having just a whole bunch of guys blobbed up together would probably be sufficient to suppress or even eliminate the better equipped opposing forces across the canal. My light anti-tank gun was about to be towed out of position when a very well-placed British mortar shell lands nearby and basically incapacitates all of the crew. My 50mm mortar is going absolutely ham with a barrage, the impact of which we'll see here in a second. Across the canal from the mortar is one of the main objectives, which is a bridge across the canal. I told my mortar to engage this general position, and interestingly enough, one of the first hits is a direct hit on British forces hiding next to the bridge. A large firefight is still going on across the canal on my side between British forces who crossed and units in the railway station. The only real choice that I have against such a well-equipped and trained enemy is to try and overwhelm them with superior numbers. Here we see my reinforcements making their way towards the railway station objective. I receive even more security reinforcements. Again, these are very poorly equipped and perhaps even poorly trained. What's weird is how one of them seems to take a random ricochet without a tracer being visible from the fighting over in the city. A British airborne Willys Jeep with a Vickers machine gun is trying to move into position to engage my infantry. However, they meet one of my very few machine guns that I have set up in one of those buildings across the canal, and they do not live to tell the tale but they do manage to take out quite a few of my German infantry sitting in buildings on the British side of the canal. Realizing that a one-man anti-tank gun crew isn't very effective, besides the gun is mostly out of useful ammo, I decide to still try to get it away to deny the enemy a point for knocking out my anti-tank gun. Either me being very lucky or my opponent being very unlucky, one of my very few machine guns again manages to get eyes on and eliminate the crew of one of these armed jeeps. Here we see some British paras crossing the road. I was worried about this push specifically because it was going to flank my mortar and anti-tank gun position, definitely one of my weaker flanks. Riflemen are attempting to cover my Opel Blitz as it's hooking up the light anti-tank gun to try and take it out of the direct line of combat. However, accurate British rifle and machine gun fire is taking its toll on my troops. As you can see, the Opel Blitz does get hit once or twice, though the driver manages to mostly get out of there unscathed with the anti-tank gun. What most likely is a bunch of Allied reinforcements. Here we see a bunch of armed jeeps advancing towards my now old light anti-tank gun position. I'm really trying at this point to figure out how to deal with all of this British firepower, considering I don't really have a lot of machine guns on this flank. The British 6-pounder anti-tank gun that my machine gunner earlier kind of whiffed on and wasn't able to hit is now being taken out by a barrage from my 50mm light mortar. Another one of my mortars is commencing a fire mission as they are targeted at that exact moment by a fire mission by an enemy mortar team. They do suffer some casualties, but they manage to keep firing even under severe enemy pressure. Seeing as my reinforcements from earlier finally had reached the train station, I wanted to make a dash from the train station to the canal to really set up in any of the buildings there and try to get fire superiority towards the Allied side. Here we see a side perspective of probably about half or 2/3 of a platoon crossing towards the canal from the train station. Though the Allies are better equipped and way better trained, the sheer amount of numbers the Germans are able to field here really makes a difference as we are starting to push towards the canal, with British forces being outclassed purely based on the amount of rifles shooting at them, thus causing them to not be able to resist the German attackers. Some of the British must either be running low on ammo or just very desperate at this point. Here we see a British paratrooper using his Webley revolver and actually somehow very miraculously knocking out a German across the canal, probably an over 100-meter shot. Here I have shown the 38th minute in a top-down view. You can see that I'm really trying to push a large amount of my forces from the railway station towards the canal near the South Bridge, while also slowly moving machine guns into position to deal with those jeeps out in the field near the Central Avenue and the North intersection. Giving some of my units the weird honor of being the first ones across the South Bridge, I actually am surprised by the little opposition I am seeing here. So I try to pour more and more men across the South Bridge to try now to envelop the British forces across the canal. Near the North intersection, I am now also pouring my manpower across the canal, trying to also push in from this side, completing the pincer that started at the South Bridge. As this security team is about to find out, however, the British, though being encircled, have not given up and are still very capable of dishing out insane amounts of damage, especially at close range due to their equipment and training, really taking a ton of heavy casualties here in CQB. Not willing to back down after what just happened to that team, I pour more and more of my men pretty much like rats down across the Allied side of the canal, knowing that they're basically incapable of killing everyone I send towards them, because they'll probably run out of ammo before they manage to do that. Again, feeling somewhat overconfident, some more of my troops who have made it across the southern bridge are now advancing deep into the back lines of the British. I realized there was some sort of mortar team here, and I was trying to use this team to find and eliminate them. Though they are the ones who get found and then mostly eliminated, quickly seeking cover after being engaged by a very accurate British fire. A platoon of SS has arrived, though still not as well equipped as the British for this closer quarters battle. They do bring a lot more grenades, SMGs, and machine guns, though I almost feel like these guys were overkill and not really necessary for me to complete the mission. At the same time as my SS reinforcements showed up, the Allies got a platoon of well-equipped and even better trained Polish paratroopers. They, however, showed up on the flank where one or two of my machine guns had just gotten done fighting with those armed Willys jeeps. Having no targets left, these Polish paratroopers running across pretty much an open field started to become a pretty decent target for my machine guns. This next shot really puts into perspective how insane the numerical advantage I had was. I pour probably about 2.5 squads or teams into this building, which is only being occupied by a single cowering British, who then pretty much just gets absolutely annihilated. And we managed to capture the building and secure another little house on our way to a complete victory. Having determined that the allied mortars must be in or near this house, I send 2 teams to go check it out. They, however, also get met with quite accurate fire, and are then forced to retreat, so I was not able to knock out the British mortars. After 31 minutes of battle, with 24 minutes remaining on the clock, my opponent asked for a ceasefire, and this is the final result on the map. I actually forgot to keep a unit in the railway station, very rookie mistake, which does now mean I'm not actually getting the points for having that captured, though we did manage to get 565 points in total, with 400 of those coming from 4 captured objectives. My opponent managed to get 50 points off of eliminating some of my units. As you can see, I had a lot more men, but you have to keep in mind that mine were a lot worse equipped and definitely a lot worse trained, and I'm wondering how this would have played out if I would have been a little bit less aggressive, especially with deploying troops on the other side of the canal with my Opal blitzes right at the start, giving my opponent a tough choice to make, whether to attack me or to defend his own central position. For now, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I really love playing Combat Mission, and I have a bunch more content on Combat Mission coming, and not just on Battle for Normandy. I hope you enjoyed, and I'd love to see you in the next one.